I'm a bit worried about this. I've never done line gameplay stuff on stage. I might be awful, but I think we'll jump straight in.
Yeah, let's do it. So
you keep talking. I've got to do my abilities.
One of the so obviously, you know, in the Elder game, raids are a big part of that. Our 10-mans, our 20-mans. But another really big part of our Elder game, and something that's near and dear to my heart because my team has sort of been responsible for designing these, is what we call the World Story. So before you get to level cap, you will begin to experience what are called the Drusera instances. And these are soloable instances that are designed specifically to tell the story of what took place here on Nexus, what happened to the Elden, which then leads into what we call the World Story instances that take place after cap. And those are going to be specifically designed to tell the story about how you, as the player, are going to resolve the problem that you discover when you get to the end of progression. And so we're going to show you here one of the Drusera instances. We showed one of them at PAX East. This is actually a different one, so you guys are actually the first people on the entire planet to ever actually see what we call Drusera Instance 1. And so, just to give you a little background, when you start the game and you're playing through just regular zone progression, you will begin to see the appearance of this mysterious apparition, this sort of glowing, ghostly girl who sort of shows up in various places. You know, you may run up to her. Most of the time, she will disappear. She may say something to you that's sort of enigmatic and mysterious, but you never actually interact with her. But at about level 35, you get called to your capital city to discover or to investigate this strange anomaly. And when you step through the anomaly, you are faced with Drusera herself. And that's where Mark is right now in this first instance.
So due to the stream, we do have to have it at a slightly lower rate.
And so what you begin to learn as you play through this content is that Drusera has some sort of insider information about what exactly took place here on Nexus. She doesn't actually know, or she doesn't tell you why she knows these things, but she's sort of showing you these mysterious locations deep within, you know, the heart of Nexus that were important to the overarching goal of the Elden here on Nexus. And so as you go through and you're playing through this content, you will sometimes run into other iconic characters. For example, here, this is the Caretaker, who is both a good guy and a bad guy. He's this sort of schizophrenic Elden virtual construct who was once in charge of all of the scientific experiments on Nexus, but over the last 1,000 years since the Elden had disappeared has sort of gone a little glitchy. And so as you're playing through this content and you're learning the story of what took place on Nexus, you will be interacting with characters like the Caretaker, obviously with Drusera, some of the more important iconic characters that are on your factions will start to get involved in these stories. As the stakes sort of increase and you begin to truly understand what the actual danger is here on Nexus, and then, you know, obviously the overall story begins to intensify. And then right at the end of the game, once you actually see what it is that's going on here, then you know, you'll be launched into what we call the World Story, which is all of the Elder game content that is designed specifically to tell that story. So the important thing to note about this content is that it is basically designed specifically for people who like story. You know, in the same way that our raids and our dungeons are designed specifically to cater to the most hardcore players, the min-maxers, you know, people that want the most challenging content. This particular content is designed solely for players who want to learn everything there is to know about the mysteries of the Elden. You know, the reason we did that is because in a lot of games, what tends to happen is the most epic story moments that take place in a game are things that happen in raids or in dungeons. You know, most of the players that I know that really enjoy getting into the story of a game are not, you know, the players who are like, you know, rushing headlong into a 40-man raid, you know. And in fact, like, you know, if you have someone in your 40-man group who's stopping to read lore or like trying to watch the cinematic, you're basically screaming and yelling at that person, you know, to like get back in the game. And so this content is, again, designed specifically for people who enjoy the lore and want to know what's actually going on in the game. Because of that, we can actually design these in a more traditional way. You know, there's a more linear story structure. As we get into the Elder game content, there will be a lot more VO that's associated with these instances. And so, you know, we really want players who love to get into the story, we want them to have their own special kind of content, like we do with many other kinds of players in WildStar. Another thing that's kind of cool about these, you know, because they're instance and because they're sort of more traditionally structured, we can actually do some different mechanics. So obviously we do a lot of scripted events, which is cool, but we can actually do things like more path-specific content. So paths are something in our game that you choose along with your race and your class. And we have a lot of places where like that particular choice that you made for your character will also play into the content that you see in these instances. So,
want me to keep going? We've got about another 5 minutes of this if we want to.
Okay, yeah. So, I mean, I don't really have a whole lot
you don't
more
want to talk to, we don't want to spoil it too much.
Yeah.
Okay, well, we can leave it there. And we can move on to doing some Q&A. So yeah, that was one of our story instances there. And what we're going to do now is we're going to do, if you guys have got any questions, I think Dan's going to run